Diego Luna says more characters from Rogue One will be returning and reprising their roles for Andor Season 2. Stick around to find out what's in store for one of the greatest Star Wars projects to date. I'm Brendan Sem for the New Wave Nerds. Subscribe down below for more nerd content and commentary. Now let's get into the news. From Popverse, more characters from Rogue One are returning for Star Wars prequel Andor Season 2, says Diego Luna. When you're taking down an evil empire, it helps to have friends. Cassian Andor is going to need all the friends he can get. Andor Season 1 saw Cassian's early struggles against the Galactic Empire and his unconventional recruitment into the Rebel Alliance. If you saw the 2016 film Rogue One, then you already know how that story ends for Cassian, but that's a tale for another day. In the meantime, Andor Season 2 will bridge the gap in the character's biography, leading straight into Rogue One. During a spotlight panel at Ace Superhero Comic-Con 2024, Cassian Andor actor Diego Luna was asked about the upcoming second season. Luna joked, "I'm very sober today, so nothing is going to come out." However, he did give the audience some exciting news. "I can tell you Rogue One is coming, so there will be characters that you will recognize. There will be cool stuff. For those who love Rogue One, the season is going to be very special. It's going to be fascinating to go straight to Rogue One after watching this second season, because you'll see Rogue One from a different perspective. I promise you that." Now that is really, really interesting to me. I'm glad that we're going to see some characters from Rogue One reprise their roles. Hopefully we get, to see like K2SO, Alan Tudyk's droid, not robot, my apologies. I think that would be really fascinating. I really enjoyed him in that. The potential characters that we could see reprise their roles is fairly limited here. We've got some news later on that contains some possibly mild spoilers as to who is likely returning, so we'll save that for a little bit later. But there's speculation that Bodhi Rook and Mads Mikkelsen's Galen Erso could also reprise their roles. In Rogue One, there is a conversation that's alluded to between the two of them, which essentially establishes why Bodhi Rook, played by Riz Ahmed, leaves the Empire and defects to join the Rebel Alliance to discuss and help in the retrieval of the Death Star plans. So we could presumably see them return, which would be really, really interesting. Riz Ahmed is really good. I liked him as Bodhi Rook, and I don't even have to describe how amazing Mads Mikkelsen is. It's clearly evident. He's an amazing, amazing actor. He was great in Rogue One. He played a fascinating Hannibal Lecter. He was one of my favorite Marvel villains in Doctor Strange's Caecilius. I really, really enjoyed him in that. The performance there was great. The story was awesome. That movie is just so good, and it was elevated by the performance of Mads Mikkelsen. He did such a convincing job as this defecting monk, if you will, this former sorcerer who was at once the apprentice of the Ancient One. He did so good. And so I hope that we get to see him come back. That would be really, really interesting. Now, I'm curious what Diego Luna means when he says that we're going to see Rogue One from a different perspective. Obviously, Rogue One is already 100% amazing. It's so good. I was very skeptical when it was first released, but since then I've absolutely grown to love it. It's one of my favorite Star Wars movies. It easily beats out any of the sequel movies. It's another one of the great products from the Disney era of Star Wars. And so I'm curious what he really means when he says we're going to have a different perspective on it. How is this show going to affect that movie? In what way? Is it going to be through... Does he mean that we're going to get a different perspective on it through exploring his story and the continued journey of Andor along the Rebel Alliance? Are we going to see a little bit more of the Imperial side, like I mentioned, maybe through Bodhi Rook and Galen Erso? I don't know, but I'm really, really interested to see what's going to happen. And I am so, so excited to hear some news from Andor. It is wonderful to get some even a brief update about this series that was so amazing, and it's good to know that it's a good reminder that there is still good Star Wars projects. There is still good stuff coming out. I hear always people talking about how Star Wars is dead because of the Acolyte or this, that, or the other thing. Star Wars is definitely not dead. Star Wars is alive and more or less well. We've got some really, really cool things coming down the pipeline. And I'm so excited for this. I mean, the show from beginning to end was so amazing. It was prestige TV, as my dad always describes it. It was absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to see how they're going to explore this storyline moving forward. I do have a few. There are a few things that give me pause. Notably, or most notably, of which is the fact that this season of the series covers a pretty wide time span. This series covers 5 years in just 12 episodes. Typically, I'm not a huge fan of time jumps. It is a complaint that I've levied against HBO's House of the Dragon, simply because I feel if there are massive time jumps, there's a gap. Obviously there's a gap in time, but there's a gap in feeling and emotion. There's a gap in relationships that you can really understand between the characters. Now, granted, House of the Dragon is different because one of the major time jumps is massive, and a lot of events take place in those time periods. So this 12 episode arc spanning 5 years for one season rather than like 20 years in the one season of House of Dragon, maybe it's not necessarily as worrying to me as it would be otherwise. But it does still feel a little bit weird. I generally like when the story moves from A to B and it covers a consistent time period. I feel like that way it is much easier for you to develop a relationship with these characters and understand what's going on because you see it happen in real time. Right, like in the case of House of the Dragon, there's a massive time jump after. I guess I'll try to avoid spoilers here. After the divide happens between these two young friends, and while we see the inciting incident and we see the aftermath, I feel like we're just missing out on so much of the middle there that could really add depth to this relationship and make it so much more impactful and meaningful when they, come together later on, either for positive or negative reasons, right? Either when they come to mend the fence or when they come to dig the hole deeper. Either way, when you see the relationship from start to finish, there's a much more of a connection there between the viewer and the character. Now, like I said, that will likely not be as pronounced in Andor Season 1 Andor Season 2, just by nature of the fact that the time jumps are likely not going to be as evident and as massive, I guess. So that is one thing that gives me a little bit of worry, but I've got faith, right? The first season of this show was so amazing. I'm putting my faith in the showrunner, Tony Gilroy, in Diego Luna, in Stellan Skarsgård. I think this is going to be amazing. Another character who I hope we see return from season 1 is Mon Mothma. I loved her role in the first season. My only complaint was that I wish we'd seen more of her. I wish we'd been able to see a little bit more of the politicking there. I thought that would have been really, really fun. But I hope that we can sort of address that a little bit more here. I'm not 100% sure where this show is going to take, like in relation to, say, Rebels, the animated Disney TV show, another good product from Disney. There's a storyline in that wherein the ensemble, the rebels, have to help Mon Mothma escape. So I hope that we sort of see a little bit more of that and we see a little bit more politicking here. I really hope we capitalize on the intrigue that is possible through Mon Mothma and through Luthen and all that. I think that could be a really, really interesting story to tell, and I think it would just add so much more depth to the universe. It sort of describes further the organization that is the Galactic Empire. It sort of describes the political climate and further shows like why so many people would be willing to join up in this rebellion. I think that would be really, really fun. Now, let's get back to the article here from Popverse. Luna said, "It's fantastic. The only thing I can tell you is what happens at the end. It's the world upside down. That's the only thing you don't talk about in an interview, but here we are. here we all know what the end is. I can tell you one thing: Tony Gilroy is a fantastic writer, and he created amazing characters that we got to meet in Andor season 1. It's going to be a very rich second season because all those stories matter today. It's a true ensemble piece. It got very complicated in season 1, and everything has to get revolved. Every story matters. That last sentence bodes really well for me. Every story matters. I hope that we really get to see everybody else as well. I mean, I've talked about how amazing Diego Luna's Cassian Andor is, but the rest of that cast was so wonderful. I already mentioned Luthen and Mon Mothma. I really hope we get to see a little bit more of Bix. I guess I can't remember what her relationship actually is to Andor, but they are familiar, they're homies, and Bix goes through a bit of a little torture session, and I would really, really like to see what happens from there. Like, how does that interrogation, let's say, affect Bix moving forward? And does it have any impact on her relationship with Cassian Andor? I'm not 100% sure, but I'm really, really excited to see what's going on here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there is very little in the way of actual official news of who will be returning to Rogue One, or to Andor from Rogue One, but we do have one who has seemingly been confirmed. So I've got this second article here from the playlist, exclusive. Ben Mendelsohn will reprise his Orson Krennic role in Andor Season 2. Earlier this year, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, and Star Wars Andor fans received some unfortunate news. Ben Mendelsohn said, or at least suggested, that he would not be returning as the Imperial Director Orson Krennic in Tony Gilroy's Andor, the architect of the Death Star. As far as being contacted by Lucasfilm for a new project, I can tell you that no, I have not been approached for something like this, he said around the time Andor Season 2 was already well into production, leading many to presume that it wasn't happening. However, Diego Luna said this past weekend at Ace Superhero Comic-Con that, we already went over this. Let's see, here we go. And we are happy to report that Ben Mendelsohn will, in fact, be returning for Season 2, likely sometime near the end of the season. Late last week, we talked to Mexican filmmaker Alonso Ruiz Palacios for his excellent and upcoming kitchen drama La Cocina, which stars Raul Briones and Rooney Mara and a very eclectic cast of newcomers. Already revealed as one of the directors of Season 2, along with Ariel Kleiman and Janice Metz, while Ruiz Palacios was paranoid about saying anything about Andor given how secretive Lucasfilm is, he did seem to slip up on some details inadvertently. He said directing episodes of the series was a treat, especially directing heavyweight actors like Stellan Skarsgård, Forrest Whitaker, and Ben Mendelsohn, presumably not realizing he was revealing something of a spoiler. While KG Ruiz Palacios also allowed that he was given the honor to direct the last 3 episodes of the 12-episode series. And as a series creator, Tony Gilroy told us last year the end of Andor Season 2 leads directly into the events of Rogue One, which likely means Mendelsohn's Krennic only turns up around the end of the season. So, yes, Andor Season 2 ends, I believe I read 3 days before the events that take place in Rogue One. I am so excited to hear that Ben Mendelsohn is returning. When it was announced or alluded to that he wouldn't be reprising his role, I was a little saddened. I think he's a tremendous actor. I think he does amazing, amazing work. And his character as Orson Krennic in Andor was pretty fun. It was pretty good. He had some great line deliveries. The writing there was really fun as well. And so I'm glad to see that he will be returning, if only for a little bit. I'm glad that we're going to further, increase these direct connections to the film. I guess I wish he were appearing in a little bit more than just presumably the last few episodes, but any appearance is better than none in my book. I think it's going to be really, really interesting. I hope it's not just a cameo appearance like in the final episode. I hope he has a little bit more of a sustained role. He's got some lines, a few scenes throughout that whole last 3 episodes. I think that would be really cool, and perhaps maybe through this we get to this is how Bodhi Rook is reintroduced, or perhaps there's some interactions with Galen Erso. I think having those three together in a room would be really, really fun, especially seeing Mads Mikkelsen opposite Ben Mendelsohn again. I thought their interactions in, is it the opening scene of Rogue One where Mads Mikkelsen is essentially abducted and taken to work on the Death Star? I thought that scene was really, really fun. And it's also cool to me that we're going to see a little bit more of Forrest Whitaker. Obviously, he's getting a little up there in age, so I'm a little curious, to what extent he's going to be playing. But Forrest Whitaker's Saw Gerrera is really, really fun. I'm always glad to see a little bit more of that character. He's one who's appeared throughout multiple different IPs. Most notably, for me at least, is the Clone Wars TV series. He appears, I think, perhaps only in one story arc, but it's a really, really interesting story where we get to see a little bit more of Ahsoka. She gets her own command position essentially, and I thought that was really, really fun. And his rise to power is really, really interesting to me. Saw Gerrera also had a really, really cool couple of episodes in the Rebels TV series, sort of showcasing the divide in the two philosophies of rebellion, right? We see the more you see the Rebel Alliance proper, led by Mon Mothma, who is, a very almost stodgy, sort of uptight, I guess, rule book player. And then we see the dichotomy between her and Saw Gerrera, who is a guerrilla warrior, who is used to waging war on the Empire. And if anybody gets involved in the crossfire, then that's not his problem. Ultimately, his belief is that less people will die, less people will die in the rebellion than would have died had the rebellion not taken place. And I think it's a really, really interesting character, and so I'm really curious to see how he's going to factor into this. To what extent is he going to be involved? But let's get back to the article here. While KG... Oh, no, I already read that. Our final scene of the show is no secret, he told Playlist in 2022 on the Rogue Ones podcast. It's going to be Cassian walking around the tarmac to get in the ship to go to the Rings of Kafrene to go meet Daniel May's Tivik informant character that Cassian kills in Rogue One because he's come a liability. He's going there. I think that would be real. I think that's going to be really cool to lead directly into it. I thought that scene in Rogue One, maybe that's the opening scene of Rogue One. No, I'm pretty sure the opening scene is the interaction between Galen Erso and Orson Krennic, and then I think the second scene is where we get introduced to Andor. But that scene was absolutely beautiful. It sets the tone of the movie so well, and it really describes the character that we're dealing with here. When he shuffles this Daniel Mays loose of his mortal coil, it was probably one of the coldest things I've ever seen. It was absolutely amazing. And so I'm glad that we're going to get to see a little bit more directly into that. Andor Season 2 will be vastly different from Season 1, featuring many time jumps and telling the events of a 5-year period over the course of 12 episodes. Essentially, Cassian's growth as a member of the Rebel Alliance, leading up to his role as captain by the time Rogue One rolls around. Tony Gilroy wrote the season's first 3 episodes, Beau Willimon penned episodes 4 through 6, Dan Gilroy wrote episodes 7 through 9, and newcomer to the team, Tom Bissell, wrote episodes 10 through 12. So, I'm really, really interesting. I'm not interesting at all. I'm really interested in seeing the character development of Andor here. Because presumably in, at the end of Season 1 of Andor, he's become a little bit more of an ideologue. He's become slightly more ideologically motivated through the idealist that is the young member of the rebel squad who has a manifesto, as it were. So I'm really curious to see how we're going to transition from that to what we end up seeing, a sort of more jaded character in Rogue One. what are the events that are gonna take place that cause him to become more jaded, that cause him to become a little more hard. I think that would be really, really interested, and I have so much faith in this writing crew. Obviously, we mentioned we've got a couple returning from Andor Season 1 and one newcomer, Tom Bissell, who I'm not entirely familiar with. But nonetheless, I'm sure that the quality is going to be absolutely amazing. I'm sure that they're all aware of how incredible this has to be following the series that is The Acolyte. So I've pulled up Tom Bissell's writing credits here. We've got some pretty interesting one. So we've got Uncharted 4, A Thief's End, and The Lost Legacy. I didn't play Lost Legacy, but I did play Thief's End, and I absolutely loved it. I've talked about before how much I really, really enjoy the Uncharted games. I didn't get to play Gears 5. I haven't been able to play any of the Gears of War games because they were Xbox or Microsoft exclusives. And so I don't have any, direct thoughts on this. Or did I play a little bit of Gears of War 3? I think I may have played a little bit. I'm not 100% sure. In any case, I obviously don't remember it, so it wasn't all that memorable. If I played it, it must have been for a very short time. Then we also have Batman Arkham Origins. So this is the, obviously a game set in the Arkham universe, the Rocksteady Studios produced series. Arkham Origins was not as good as the other entries in the series, but I still thought it was fun. It gets extra bonus points from me just because it features the Black Mask, who is another one of my favorite Batman villains, and one who has absolutely been underutilized. He's only appeared in a few things, and the only one that I can remember off the top of my head is just absolutely terrible in, Birds of Prey, or what do they call it? The Emancipation of Harley Quinn. What a terrible, terrible movie. And I thought, as much as I love Ewan McGregor, I think he did find just the characters written bad. I hate the take that they took. But ultimately, the game itself, wasn't amazing to me. It wasn't anything we have to shout about. But it is curious to me that this writer, most of his credits are from video games, right? So we've got Arkham Origins, Vanishing of Ethan Carter, Battlefield Hardline. This was not a good Battlefield game. Uncharted, obviously. What Remains of Edith Finch. This one is very highly regarded. Obviously, Gears 5. Masters of Doom. That sounds really cool. It sounds like it would be, absolutely terrible, but something that I would really, really enjoy. It's not available anywhere, so we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe one of these days we'll be able to come and see that. So we've got a really weird eclectic filmography here. It's really, really weird. Mostly video games. I don't know how that's going to translate to writing for television, to writing Andor. But like I said, obviously wrote Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. What a great game. What a wonderful conclusion to the story of Nathan Drake. And so I do have faith. Like I said, even though this guy doesn't have a vast writers, a vast amount of writers credits, I put my faith in Tony Gilroy, that he picked the right person for the job. I've got a lot of faith after Andor Season 1, and so I'm going to be incredibly hopeful and very optimistic here. And like I said before, I'm so excited to see some more Star Wars from something that will presumably be very well done. The Acolyte has been a bit of a disappointment as of late. If you want our full thoughts, you can go ahead and go listen to mine and Shade's reviews of episodes 1 through 4. It is really, really important to me that I hit home how much I like Andor. How amazing this series is. Because we've talked, we haven't said a lot of good things about The Acolyte. We've said some good things, but it's been mostly negative. And the response on the internet to negative commentary regarding The Acolyte has been just horrific. It has been terrible. There have been so many advocates of the shows, what many people are calling Disney shills, who will who, if they see anybody who doesn't like the Acolyte, they will attack them relentlessly, call them fake Star Wars fans, and claim that the reason they hate the show is because they are racist or misogynist or a bigot of some variety. And it's just not true. Granted, as we've talked about before, there are always people on the internet who absolutely are like that, and there are people who hate the show just because of the, because it's, led by a woman, created by a woman, whatever. But the vast, vast majority of people who dislike the show simply like it because it is unsatisfying and it is not well written. And it's just preposterous because everybody loves Andor. Everybody loves Andor. Everybody loves these characters. Everybody loved Rogue One, which was also led by a female. I want to say it's Felicity Jones. Let's see. I spelled Rogue wrong. Yeah, Felicity Jones. I mean, we all love Leia. We love Padme. We love Ahsoka. These are some of our favorite characters, and they're the most important in the Star Wars universe. So to imply, and in some cases to just outright say that if you don't like the Star Wars show because of X, Y, or Z, because of whatever ism, it's just absolutely, absolutely false. And there are people who talk about how the only reason people dog on the Acolyte is because it's made by Disney and because they want to hate Disney. And again, there are those people there, but that is the vast majority. For the vast majority, they love Andor. They love Rogue One. They love, Rebels, which is another Disney product. There are so many good things. It's not that we hate Star Wars. It's not that we hate Disney. It's just that you have released a very unsatisfying project. And so I'm glad that we're going to get some more good Star Wars soon. I'm glad that even though The Acolyte has thus far, and I want to try and hold out as much hope as possible, but has thus far been unsatisfying, there are still going to be good projects in the future. But let me know down below, who else do you think is going to be reprising their role from Rogue One in Andor Season 2? Are you excited for this as I am? I'm practically giddy with excitement. I'm shaking in my boots as to how happy I am to hear another update. But let me know what you guys think down below. We'll be back here tomorrow with a brand new news segment, and I will see you guys then.